Let me say it louder for the people pleasers in the back. I came from two people that fell in love. You don't really know what somebody's going through until you're put in a position to go through it. Life can get messy. Now, sometimes we do handle things the wrong way because at some point the well is going to run dry. Hello chapter bestie, and welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know, my name is Angie and I am primarily a romance and psychological thriller reader. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We are going to be talking about life lessons from all the books that I've read in 2024. Well, at least 10 life lessons from the books that I've read in 2024. So if you're ready, let's get into it. So I had to start out with this particular quote first. It is from And Then Life Was Beautiful by Asia Monique. This was in my yearbook, my senior year yearbook. It was my senior quote. May you trust God that you are exactly where you're meant to be. And Asia Monique says in this book, sometimes life doesn't go as planned and you may not end up where you thought you were going, but you will always end up where you are meant to be. And I think this is a perfect way to start this video to remind us that we are where we are meant to be. It can seem like things aren't going how it's supposed to go, things aren't working out in our favor, but everything is lining up to work out for our good in the end and set us up in unimaginable places that we just didn't dream of. We didn't see it because we were caught up in whatever tribulation and trial that we were going through, but it's all working out. And so I think that's a great way to open up this video with this quote and this life lesson that is truly something that we can all take with us no matter what. The second quote is from the Knock 'Em Out series, Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. Emery chuckled. Sooner or later, my friend, you'll learn that embracing the messiness of life is where you find its greatest treasures. So that kind of piggybacks onto the first quote. Life can get messy, but if we focus on the mess, if we focus on the tribulation and the things that aren't happening in our life, we kind of miss the things that are happening in our life. And I've experienced this before. I'm guilty of it. Even just the other day, I'm guilty of focusing on the messy things and not embracing the messy things and not just trusting the process. And so the messy, I'm a journey person. It's all about the journey and getting to the destination. And so that's how I feel about this quote. Is really, really, it touched me. Like some of these books that I've read, they really kind of just like, you're kind of self-reflecting, kind of like going through your trauma, and it's really, it's been great. The third quote is from The Silent Patient by Alex. I don't know how to say his last name. Michaelidius, whatever. You guys know what I'm saying. I'm sorry. I hate to butcher people's names, but The Silent Patient. Everybody knows about that book. And there were a few quotes from this book, surprisingly, how unhinged that book was. But it's a quote that I wanted to talk on. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. And this is so true. And I've actually said this on my relationship marriage YouTube channel, as far as sweeping things under the rug. You're not dealing with your trauma, not dealing with your issues head on. It comes out later down the road. It comes out later on in life. It'll come out through your partner. It'll come out through your children. Like you'll be projecting certain things onto them. So it's always good to address things when they're happening and deal with it in that moment, instead of thinking that it's going to get better just by not dealing with it. So that's definitely a life lesson that we all need to be aware of. The fourth quote came from one of my favorite books this year, Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, and it says, and I think I'm most grateful for time, which doesn't always heal all wounds, but teaches us how to be happy again, even with our scars. And so anybody that has dealt with grief, and this book dealt with grief, right? I don't want to spoil it, but it dealt with grief and going to therapy and stuff. And so anybody that has dealt with grief, and me being fresh in grief from losing my great grandmother last year in May of 2023, people say time heals wounds, and that's really not the case. You really just learn how to deal with missing this person. Like it's painful. You still, especially somebody that you talk to every single day, like and just going to not speaking to them at all is really difficult. And so I think that was really a good quote to touch on in this video, is just embracing your grief and not allowing people to tell you when your grief needs to be over. I read back when I was on Facebook really heavy, I saw a you know, like one of those little meme things, and it was saying, let me see if I can get this right. It said, if you don't know why or how, if you don't know why somebody is grieving as long as they are, consider yourself blessed. Something to that extent. And it's so true. You don't really know what somebody's going through until you're put in a position to go through it. And at this point in my life, I've only maybe lost a couple of people that I was close to, but I never really lost somebody that I was close to as my great grandmother in last year. So I totally understand people grieving for long periods of time. The fifth quote comes from another banger, my favorite book. I don't know, like I just love this book so much. It's one of those books that I wish I could just reread. 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. And so she says in here, if you listen hard enough, you can tell what a person needs from you. And this is good for romantic relationships. It's good for platonic relationships. If you listen hard enough, you can tell what a person needs from you. Sometimes people are not going to tell you what they need from you verbally, but they're going to show you what they need from you. And so this is something that for the emotional intelligent, for the people that have empathy and can show compassion for somebody being in a space that you're not in, just making sure that you are being there for this person and just listening to what they need, that you're watching what they need. I've talked about this, I think I've said this already, I talked about this in one of my other YouTube channels on my relationship and marriage podcast, about how a lot of the times men, they're not going to really express their vulnerabilities how women express our vulnerabilities. So we have to watch behaviors, we have to watch how they're showing up. Are their patterns changing? You know, what's happening? You have to watch it. And so that's what I feel like this quote was kind of getting at, and I really loved it. Not just because I love the book, but I really love the quote. The sixth quote is from Holding Back the Years by Kasha Thompson. This was a really short read, my shortest read. I think it was like 167 pages. But this is so dope because I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. The quote says, when you stop to think about family and how we come together, it really is awe-inspiring. Two people meet and fall in love, and their love creates a room full of people all connected because two people find one another and decided to give forever a try. And when you go to your family events, you're not really thinking about, oh my gosh, I came from two people that fell in love, or my grandparents, let's use them as an example. Like, we are descendants from just them deciding that, hey, I want to fall in love. I want to give this a try. Like, all of my siblings wouldn't be here if they didn't do what they did. And so when you're at family events, when you're at family reunions and stuff, like, really think about that and how amazing it is that how we got here and just how we're all connected to one another. I think that was one of my favorite quotes overall, because it really made me think about family and how important family really is, and just how we even got here in the first place. So I really like that one. The seventh quote is from To Be Loved by Kayla Shawn. There's always going to be someone worse off than you, but that doesn't mean the way you feel isn't valid. So this one is very, very important, because a lot of the times people say there's somebody worse off than you because they don't know what else to say. And it's not really the appropriate thing to say, because we know that there are people in worse conditions than us. If I can't pay my rent one month, I know that there's somebody out there homeless. That doesn't negate the fact that I'm feeling down because something is going wrong in my life, or because the rent can't get paid, or whatever the case may be. If you're struggling in life in another area, you can say, well, so-and-so is out here doing worse than me, but that doesn't negate the fact that you're struggling too. And so I think a lot of people, they say this because they don't know what else to say, and it's kind of passive aggressive. I know people think they're helping, but it doesn't really help the situation. Just because you are feeling certain things and somebody may be worse off than you doesn't mean that what you are going through is not important. It doesn't mean that what you are going through is not yours to just handle how you see fit to handle. Now, sometimes we do handle things the wrong way. Sometimes we lash out to the wrong people, but it's still valid for us to feel the feelings that we feel. It's just how we go about it that, you know, helps us, you know, decide what we turn out to be and how the situation turns out. So yeah. Okay, so the 8th quote is from Powerless by Elsie Silver, one of my favorite series. I'm going to get comfortable disappointing other people to avoid disappointing myself. Let me say it louder for the people pleasers in the back. I'm going to get comfortable disappointing other people to avoid disappointing myself. This is for the people pleasers. This is for the people that feel like they have to do everything for everybody else and everybody else comes first. Listen, we know if you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to put into yourself. And a lot of people have this mindset of just pleasing other people and not wanting to disappoint other people, but they do things to disappoint themselves. Hey mommy, I'm shooting a video right now. Can I call you back? All right, bye. Yeah, so what was I saying? A lot of people are okay with disappointing themselves just to appease other people, and that is never okay, because at some point the well is going to run dry and you are going to turn into somebody that you don't recognize. So listen, we can put other people first, but we have to remember that not to disappoint ourselves in the process. So that's that. The 9th quote is from surprisingly, this is the one book, romance book, that I absolutely did not like this year that I read, The Greek Villa by Sue Roberts. This was the only thing that I took away from this book. Turning onto the highway, I think about all the people who hold grudges. Even deep down, they want to forgive. Maybe it's because we always believe there is more time. But the future is promised to no one, as all too often, unforeseen circumstances can deny a person the chance to reconcile. So this is very, very important for people that are going through transitions in relationships, where you once had a relationship with somebody and then the relationship is not what it used to be, and perhaps you never had a conversation about it, or perhaps you had a conversation and the conversation was extremely negative and you think you have time to do these things, but you really don't have time because nothing is promised to us. The bounds have already been set. We don't know the day or the hour that we're going to die, so it behooves us to reconcile, and not necessarily reconcile, but have the necessary conversations to, if you really truly need to leave the relationship alone or reconcile, you are at peace because you've had the conversation, you've come to some conclusion. But when you just say nothing, you kind of leave things on edge and leave things out into the open, where it's just kind of, you're just left with misunderstanding and miscommunications and having things formulate in your head that this person feels this type of way when they really don't feel this type of way. And I understand, listen, you can forgive people and move the heck on with your life, because there are dozens of people that I have forgiven over the last few years and I have moved on with my life. They're just in a category where I just don't really mess with them, and that's fine too. As long as you're not holding no grudge and no animosity and no deep down feelings. Like, you can literally put people in, okay, one of the quotes that I had that's not mentioned in this book is "Fool me once, never again." That's a prime example of just moving on with your life. You don't have to always come back to a friendship. You don't have to come back to a kumbaya moment where you're just the best of friends again, but you can move on in peace. And I think that's where having a conversation instead of acting like something didn't happen is important, so you can move on in true peace as opposed to just assuming, if that makes sense. The last quote, oh yes, the last quote is again from my girl Elsie Silver, but this is in Flawless, and we're gonna end this just like this. She said, if this were my last moment alive, how would I want it to be? When I read that in the book, first of all, the series was off the chain to begin with, but when I read that, it really made me think about, and by all means, I'm guilty of acting up and saying things I don't mean sometimes and not apologizing when I should. Don't get it twisted. You know, your girl is flawed like a mug. But this really helped me understand of, because we don't know when our last time is, how would we want to be? Like, I would want to leave this world happy. Like, I would want to leave this world satisfied. I would want to leave this world doing things I love with the people that I love. So when we're angry about something, or when we're going through something, like if you want to move another job because it's going to make you happier, move the other job. If you want to get out of the relationship because it's toxic, get out of the relationship. So it's just things like that. And just, how would you want to be? How would, like, what state would you want to be in? And that's all I have. I think I really am going to do a part 2 to this, because there were so many banging quotes that I could have brought up. I didn't want to extend the video and make it super long, but I think I may do a part 2 to life lessons that I've learned in 2024 from the books that I read. This was a dope different video for me, and different video that I've seen online. I've never seen anybody do quotes about books, life lessons and stuff. So yeah, if you like the video, leave a comment. What's one of your favorite quotes from a book you read? Maybe you read the same book that I have and you have a different quote. Drop it below. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll pick back up in the next video. Why are you looking at me?
Because you were looking at me. I was looking up, and I felt you looking at me, so I looked at you. So why are you looking at me?
Hold on. Wait, I lost my train of thought. That was my mom, y'all. But anyway, should have put my phone on do not disturb, but that's okay. Makes for good bloopers.